So I have been saying that I got these dolls so that I can make historically accurate clothing, or as close as I can, and for them to model my mini clothing, because honestly I just don't have anywhere or a way to make all of these clothing, nowhere to wear it. Even if I could afford to make all of the historical dresses I would love to make. And so the dolls seem like a great way to, kind of dabble in the historical reenactment without burdening myself with too much clothing, or, financial difficulties with making all this clothing, or with storing it, all that kind of stuff. Because I love miniatures, they're so easy to store. Just fold them up. Everything goes into this little plastic bag. So at any rate, that's what I've been saying, is that's why I have these dolls. But I just had to be honest with myself. I would say, okay, well, I'm an adult and I'm not playing with dolls. I didn't even really like dolls when I was growing up. But let's just admit it. I'm playing with dolls, okay? Okay, I'm just going to be honest with myself. And not only am I playing with dolls, but I enjoy it. Then I had to admit to myself that not only am I playing with these dolls and I'm enjoying it, but I'm doing it because I like clothing. I never thought of myself as a girl who liked clothing. I really never thought of myself as a girl who liked hair, basically. So I guess I waited till I was older to become girly girl and to like clothing and to like hair. I'm like, man, or woman. I wish I thought about this when I was in college. I would have gone to school for like fashion design or something, or at least in a textile department. Cornell has an awesome textile department, or at least they used to 20 years ago. So I could have done fashion design or something. So I'm learning about myself. I also could have done history. Oh boy, that would have been fun. I could have gone to costuming school. But these dolls have really they've opened up something new and interesting. And I am learning more and more, not only about history, not only about dress construction, but about myself. And I'm learning an awful lot about Molly too. Hello everyone, this is Denise at Something Beautiful Handcrafts, and welcome to the Doll Studio. We are here in Samantha's bedroom. I was able to acquire a scenes and settings book featuring scenes from Samantha's American Girl books. And if you aren't familiar with the scenes and settings book, I'll have to do a separate video on that later. So we have Molly here, and she is in the Molly, an 1830s dress pattern by Pemberley Threads. So I just want to give you a little teeny background on the 1830s before I talk about the actual dress itself. Now, here's the thing about the 1830s. It's not really characterized by one fashion. There are several different trends that happened during that time period. And you're also moving towards the early Victorian era. So things change a lot. One of the things that is most notable, I should say, about the 1830s are the leg of mutton or Gigot sleeves. So let me see if I can give you a really quick overview. Now, if you do want a more thorough overview, then you should try watching Lady Rebecca's fashions, and she gives a really thorough overview of the different fashions that went on through the 1830s. Okay, first of all, the 1830s was all about romanticism and expression, and in my case, basically, it was about bigger is better. That's what I would say would be the most categorizing thing of it. And we see a lot of big sleeves, lot of petticoats, wide collars, big hairstyles, big curly hairstyles. Okay, and um, it kind of shifted from the Regency era was light and classical and airy and almost like ephemeral. The 1830s was very big, heavy, um, drapey kind of it. Okay, so anyway, the silhouette was what they say call a nipped waist. And what that means is that it fell just above the natural waistline and made the waist look short. And then the wide sleeves and the skirts ended just above the ankle. Okay. And mostly it was about width. Okay. The sleeves were about width. The dress kind of spread out, as you can see, and it was all about width, which was achieved with many petticoats. Okay, going into these Muffin sleeves, they started in 1830. In 1830, between 1830 and 1833 is when they hit their apex in size. Okay, lots of varieties, but they kind of hit that really big size that we think of roughly as they moved from 1830 to 1833. Okay, most of the time, the standard Gigot was full to the wrist, okay, fitted to the elbow, and then it was a gigantic puff at the top. So let's have a look at Molly dress. Okay, here we see it's a full sleeve, and it is basically a full sleeve up to the elbow here. Okay, here's when we start our elbow. Then there's this gigantic puff, and I'm starting to wish I had filled it in so that you can really get a good idea of how big this puff is. I should have stuffed it with some type of, I don't know, whatever I could have found to stuff it. And basically, what I'm trying to express is the amount of fabric that was just produced with that sleeve. Now, in order to keep that sleeve full and puffy, okay, there was actually a pad put into it. Sometimes it was put into the top of the sleeve. Sometimes it was tied around the lady's arm underneath, secured onto the corset, secured onto the shift. Pretty much, that's how you kept that sleeve puffy. And they just got bigger and bigger and bigger until, you couldn't defy the laws of nature anymore, the laws of gravity, and it just kind of took on a drooping sentimental quality, okay, as one writer put it. So the sleeve got as big as it was, as big as it could. Then the waistline and hem length began to shift. Got a lower waistline down closer to the natural waist, and the hemline down towards the bottom of the floor to the floor. That's when the sleeve made its change from the tightly fitted sleeve of the 1930s towards the 1940s. I'm sorry, for the Gigot sleeve of the 1930s to the closely fitting sleeve of the 19. And so this is when sleeves begin to change from the enormous Gigot sleeves of the 1830s, early 1830s, I should say, through a transitional phase to the tightly fitted sleeves of the 1840s. Okay? So, after the puffs, and there's a link called the Fashion History Timeline from 1830 to 1839. It's Fashion History at fitnyc.edu. Okay? And it gives you really great pictures because first you see the sleeve that's just kind of puffy, then it gets puffier and puffier, puffier and puffier. And what you also notice is that the neckline goes further and further down before it's a wide open neckline, and then after a while it's off the shoulder. Okay, and then you get to a point where it is so far down and so far droopy that you just really can't stand these sleeves up any longer. Then there's a really good example of the lady with her gowns almost at the edge of the shoulders, and the Gigot sleeves are so puffy that they fold over down onto the other sleeve, like that one does right there. And that's basically how it began to fit after a while. Then there's a transitional picture that at the top of the sleeve, right here, you'll find some type of ruching. Then it'll puff towards the middle, and you'll have more ruching down at the sleeve as it transitions into the tighter fitting sleeve of the 1840s. And actually, on this Molly dress, there is something called the Molly sleeve variation. So check the dress out in Etsy. You'll see the Molly sleeve variation, and it is that late 1830s sleeve that is moving towards the 1840s, where it's got the ruching at the top here, and then kind of a little puffy space here, and then some more ruching right there, moving towards that simpler silhouette. As the neckline, or I should say, as the waistline also begins to drop, and the hemline. Okay, that is enough fashion history. I will do my hardest to remember that when the video is uploaded, to add the link to the NYC EDU site and a link to Lady Rebecca's fashions, if I can remember, so that you can have a look at that timeline. So let's look at Molly's dress. So here we go. Molly's wearing a cotton dress, basically. I try my best to work in natural fibers whenever possible. Sometimes it's not possible and I got to polyester something or another, but it happens. Okay, right now she's wearing the pelerine, and the pelerine is also a Pemberley Threads pattern, just in case I didn't mention that. And it is of a cotton muslin. It is hooked on to the top of her neck, and it is meant to cover across her neck for modesty and warmth. So you might say, well, if she's supposed to be modest, why does she have this deep neckline? Well, deep necklines were for certain times of day. So you could wear any dress that you want, and you just change it from an evening wear, day wear to an evening wear by covering or uncovering your neckline or bosoms. It pretty much works the same throughout a lot of historical dresses. You know, you just didn't show the bosom in the daytime, and at nighttime it was cool. Okay, so since I turned it around to show you the back, I'm just going to show you the back of the dress. This particular dress was really simple to make compared to the piecing of the dresses from the 1700s. It's simple and it's elegant all at the same time. Okay, so it is fully lined. Okay, the top bodice is fully lined, and that adds weight to the fabric. What I do want you to ignore is this shift up here. If she had on the Felicity shift, which has been appropriate for the last 200 years, then you wouldn't have seen that neckline. But she actually has on the Molly shift from her time period, so you can see that. But normally the shift would tie, and so you just let the ties go, looser, so that you can tuck it in to the dress, so it would have the appropriate neckline. I finished this particular dress with hook and eye, and I will do my best to always use hook and eye when historically appropriate, instead of the Velcro that the American Girl doll dresses generally have. Okay, so let's turn her around again. Okay, so you can see how this dress falls down far, and the various pictures on Pinterest and at the NYU site show the dresses beginning with just kind of a, a wider neckline, and as the decade progresses, they come further and further off of the shoulders. Okay, so that's part of the trends. But as they come further and further off the shoulders, instead of the Gigot sleeves standing up, they begin to sag too. So I could put puffs in these sleeves, kind of wishing I had, and make this dress stand up, or I can pull it more off the shoulders and have a later look. Kind of a mid 1830s versus a early 1830s. Okay, so if you can see the difference here. The dress has a center line down the bodice, and the waistband right here is decorated with a belt, which is, of course, is part of the fashion of the period. This particular piece is just one of the I'm gonna call it beads, cabochon. I'm not really sure what to call it, but basically, it is part of a linked bracelet that I have pieces for, and so it was pretty much fitting to put a piece of ribbon through and tie it on as a belt. Molly does not have any jewelry on. Um, well, basically because I found it was interfering with the pelerine when I was trying to put it on, because I was going to put the locket on that Kit had on, which is pretty much period appropriate. And I watched this incredible video on period appropriate jewelry for the 1830s, and it was really cool. And if I remember, I'll link that in the bottom too, because you might find that you like that. She does have on her petticoat. This is the decade of many starched petticoats. This is before the hoops and before the caged crinoline. So the women wore lots and lots of petticoats to make their dresses stand out like this. For the most part, this will stand out because this cotton is really stiff. Though the petticoat does help it stand out because it is layered such that it is almost corded. So it does stand out. I'm trying to see if I put any. There's no boning in that one. It's just corded. I only put one petticoat on her because if I had put more, she would not be able to fit in the dress. And I had to tight lace her as it was. Because in general, the newer patterns are made for the newer American Girl dolls with them in mind. But I have Pleasant Company dolls except for Kit and Kaya. So these girls are at least a 1/4 inch larger than the American Girl doll, Mattel dolls, and it shows when you're making clothing or you're putting clothing on them. So I only cinched her so tight, and she's only got one petticoat on. So we'll pretty much achieve the correct shape without that. Molly's hair is not quite period appropriate. Instead of bangs, she should have some really cute side curls. But as you know, Molly has bangs, as do most of the American Girl dolls, except for Felicity. And Kit's hair is too short. And so I couldn't really get the full effect that I wanted with the hair. So I just figured I'd put up in braids like that, because that is actually one of the styles I saw on a young Queen Victoria, minus the bangs, of course. So I figured that was good enough. Okay, so the Molly dress for the 1830s. Of course, I highly recommend this pattern. I really highly recommend this pattern if you're just starting to make historical doll dresses. Like I said, the 1700s gowns were very well written. There's nothing wrong with the patterns themselves, but they are hard, even the Pleasant Company ones. They have a lot of pieces. They go on in a historical way, historical method of putting them together. They have a lot of um, accents, a lot of detail, a lot of decorations on them, a lot of finishings. And so I just found it got on my nerves to do all those finishings. You might not mind it, but yeah, I kind of minded it. And so this one was more elegant, easier, more simplistic. The shape of the dress does the work. Now, you can add some more furnishings to these dresses. There are dresses that have more furnishings to them, but for the most part, the shape does the work. So I didn't have to worry about all that. Of course, until I get into the 1839s, late 1830s, and I start putting the ruching on the sleeves, then I'll be getting into some work. I might make that the next Molly dress with the sleeve variation at some point so you can see that. Okay, everyone, I think I am done talking about Molly and the Molly dress. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can see her there. Then I'm going to take a little pause in between Molly and Josefina and the American Civil War area because it will be time for Tour de Fleece. And I've got some spinning I've got to do. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks to all my subscribers. If you aren't a subscriber, please click that subscribe button and hit the notification bells. Click the like button and drop me a comment down below. Thank you so much. Have a great day. So I have been saying that, oh gee.